What does it mean to lose your home? Not just the four walls and the roof overhead, but the soil that once held your ancestors, the language that gave shape to your dreams, the familiar rhythm of a culture now fading behind you like footsteps in the sand. Imagine being forced to leave everything behind, your friends, your books, your childhood streets, only to wander across strange lands, hoping to find a new place to belong. This is the story of the refugee. But it's also the story of one of the most beloved poets in human history, Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi. Yes, Rumi, the mystic poet known for his verses on love and divine unity, was also a refugee. Long before his words graced Instagram captions and spiritual memes, Rumi was a boy fleeing war, a soul in exile. His poetry, radiant with longing and love, was born not from comfort, but from displacement. Today, as over 100 million people are forcibly displaced across the globe, Rumi's story becomes more than historical. It becomes deeply human and deeply relevant. Here, we explore the intersections of spirit, story, and society. From ancient wisdom to modern crises, we uncover what endures and what evolves. If you're someone who finds meaning in poetry, in history, or simply in being human, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Rumi was born in 1207 in the city of Balkh, located in present-day Afghanistan. At the time, Balkh was a flourishing center of culture, philosophy, and spirituality, often called the mother of cities. But that golden age was about to be swallowed by a storm. The Mongol invasions, led by Genghis Khan, began to sweep through Central Asia with terrifying speed and brutality. Towns were razed, libraries burned, lives shattered. When Rumi was just a child, his father, Baha Walid, a theologian and mystic, recognized the danger and made the difficult decision to flee with his family. They would never return. Their journey took them across the Muslim world, through Nishapur in Iran, through Mecca and Damascus, eventually arriving in Anatolia, present-day Turkey. For Rumi, exile wasn't a metaphor. It was life. Uprooted from his homeland, Rumi would spend the rest of his life in foreign lands, absorbing new cultures, languages, and ways of thought. But exile didn't just shape his biography, it shaped his soul. To be a refugee is not only to lose one's land, but often one's sense of identity. Who are you when your past has been burned behind you, and your future feels like borrowed time? Rumi's answer again and again was this: you are not where you are from. You are what you seek. He writes, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." In this line, Rumi expresses something profound, not just about grief and resilience, but about the fluidity of identity. The pain of loss is real, but so too is the transformation that follows. You can lose a home and still find belonging, not in a place, but in connection, with others, with the divine, with yourself. Rumi's poetry is drenched in this longing to belong, not to a nation, but to a greater love. What he lost externally, he transmuted internally. He turned displacement into transcendence. If the road from Balkh shaped Rumi's outer life, then the arrival of Shams of Tabriz reshaped his inner cosmos. Shams was a wandering mystic, enigmatic, bold, untamed. When he and Rumi met in Konya, their connection was electric. For months, they spoke of divine love, ego death, and the burning away of worldly illusions. Many were scandalized. Rumi, a respected scholar, had become a mystic in rapture. But it was this friendship, this soul encounter, that cracked Rumi open. And it was Shams' eventual disappearance, possibly murder, that plunged Rumi into his deepest grief and greatest poetry. He began writing what would become the Divani Shams, verses bursting with longing, confusion, ecstasy, and sorrow. It is here that the theme of exile becomes more intimate, not just from homeland, but from the beloved, the divine source. The poems become a map of the spiritual refugee, forever seeking reunion. Now fast forward 800 years. Today, over 100 million people live in exile, fleeing war, persecution, famine, or climate disaster. Syria, Afghanistan, Sudan, Gaza, Ukraine. Each face in a refugee camp carries a story of a home lost, of a child's disrupted education, of a dream suspended in limbo. And yet, what's most heartbreaking is often not the physical loss, but the emotional one, the sense of being unseen, unheard, forgotten. This is where Rumi's voice rises again, not as a prophet, but as a companion. In his poetry, refugees might find reflection. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? This moment is all there is. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. These are not hollow platitudes. They are survival mantras. They speak to the human capacity to create light from ashes, music from mourning. Perhaps Rumi's greatest gift is his redefinition of home. For him, home was not a place on a map. It was a state of soul. He writes, "I have been a seeker and I still am, but I stopped asking the books and the stars. I started listening to the teaching of my soul. To belong, then, is not to be accepted by a nation-state. It is to accept the divine invitation to be present, to love, to create, to connect." In Rumi's worldview, everyone is in exile from something. Some are displaced physically, others emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically. We are all, in some sense, refugees of the soul, seeking a place to call home. And yet, as Rumi shows us, that home may be closer than we think. Rumi died in 1273, in Konya, far from the city of his birth. But even in death, he belonged everywhere, and to everyone. His funeral was attended not only by Muslims, but also by Jews, Christians, and people of many ethnicities and backgrounds. Each community claimed him as their own, not because of shared language or nationality, but because they had seen their hearts reflected in his words. That is Rumi's greatest legacy. He transcended the walls that divide us. He was a refugee not just from a land, but from illusion, from the illusion that we are separate, that our pain is isolated, that our stories are not shared. What can we learn today? In a time when borders are hardening and nationalism is rising, Rumi reminds us that the soul has no passport. He teaches us that exile can be a beginning, not an end. Belonging is not granted, it is created. The pain of displacement can give rise to beauty, to poetry, to divine connection. When we look at the millions displaced today, we must not just see numbers, we must see potential. We must remember that among them may be the next Rumi. A child now sleeping in a tent may one day give words to a world in need of healing. Let us not turn away from their stories. Let us listen, because sometimes the one who has lost everything can teach us what truly matters. In the end, aren't we all wanderers? Wandering through life, through questions, through heartbreaks and healings. Searching for meaning. Searching for home. Rumi's poetry reminds us that exile is not just political, it's spiritual. And that the journey inward can be just as turbulent, just as transformative, as any journey across deserts and seas. So when you feel lost, when you feel like you don't belong, remember these words. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Hold on to that light. Follow it. It will lead you home. If this story moved you, if you saw your own journey reflected in Rumi's, or if you simply want to keep exploring the wisdom of ancient souls in a modern world, then join us. Subscribe to The Unfolding Journey for weekly essays, poetic deep dives, and stories that connect the past and present. Click that subscribe button. Hit the bell to stay updated. Share your thoughts in the comments. What does home mean to you? Because this journey is just beginning, and it's better when we walk it together. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And as always, may your journey keep unfolding.